Hello folks, and welcome to another, it's not really a Hobby Nightmares, it's a Games Workshop stories today. You know how much I like doing these. These are stories from my own time at Games Workshop, but this one is from a very close friend of mine that I thought would be prudent to talk about on the channel. It is a very harrowing story of how their time at Games Workshop came to an end. Those of you who know my channel will know back in the day, at the end of 2018, or sometime in 2018 I think it was, I produced a video called Leaving Games Workshop My Experience, or Working at Games Workshop My Experience. That was my first video that kind of went viral, quote unquote. It's something that I've needed to do again and revisit. But to be honest with you, I've left most of that in the past now. I'm in a much healthier place, so I don't really want to revisit those memories. I always could do something if it's something that you want me to do. If you want me to do that, then go in the description down below and tell me in the comments. If you like what I do, then subscribe. The button is down below. And if you really like what I do, then go over and buy me a beer on Patreon if that's what you want to do. No, there is no minimum amount on Patreon. You can just give what I don't mind. My rule is if you can afford it 10 times, give that amount once. That's my rule. So yeah, I don't want anyone begging themselves or giving me money that they can't afford to give. That's not right. If you feel like I'm worth it, get us a beer. That's enough for me. Thank you very much. And a few of you still owe me beers when you've seen me around the place. You've not bought me one. Cheeky buggers. Anyway, let's get into the story, shall we? This is from somebody called Jeff, and Jeff is a really nice guy. I have met him now 3 times. He's going to have a real go at me. Yeah, 3 times. Once when I was at Games Workshop, and another few times when we played games elsewhere. Lovely guy. And yeah, we've been exchanging emails for a few weeks now, just going over what he wants to tell in his story and how he wants to share it. We have cut out a bit of this, because there is some stuff that could be construed as liable that I don't really want to go into, and I don't really want to say on the channel, because it could get a bit, hot water for me and him. So, names have been changed, things have been changed around a little bit to make sure that, no one can come after Jeff or myself. But apart from that, this is Jeff's story, verbatim, as said to me over email and over a few Discord calls. So, he says, "Hi North. First of all, thanks for letting me tell my story on here in a way that will likely not get me sued. I hope. Yep, so do I. I will do a bit of a preamble and then jump right into the heart of things. Ending my time as a Games Workshop manager. Working for Games Workshop was always a dream of mine. I know that may sound weird, but as a kid I would always head into the store and think, man, those guys have the best job in the world. When I finished university, I decided just to say, well, to hell with it. And whilst living back at home with my parents, and in brackets he says, I had renovated the garage and loft extension for them to live in whilst I got money together from my own place. They rent it out now. Pretty cool. I always love it when people go back to their parents' houses and they add somewhere for themselves to live in. It's just really funny. I saw an advertisement whilst there for my local GW online for the role of sales assistant. Basically, a store body. I applied and was invited for an interview where, much like yourself, I told the manager and recruitment officer that I wanted to be a manager one day. I laid it out on the line that as a university graduate, I knew this was a big risk, starting from the bottom. But I wanted to do that and make sure that Games Workshop was the last company I actually worked for in my career. They were impressed, and I was offered the job. Awesome stuff. Unlike yourself, I never had to move to start at the bottom. My store was a short bus ride away from my parents' place. I started there, and the manager and I got along really well. It was a stress-free time of bringing people into the hobby, organising events and big beginner days. I loved it. I was there for 2 years and managed to have 2 Christmases, which was awesome in the store. The manager even got us champagne for New Year's in my last year, where we had an amazing year. Yeah, something similar happened to me when I was at GW. Me and my co-worker were absolutely caning it in the store, and we brought in. He basically had my manager had one of the best years he'd ever had as a store manager. He walked in with champagne on New Year's Eve, and walked around with it, and I was like, oh, I said to my co-workers, "Oh, are we going to get some champagne?" No, that was for him and his missus. He said, "Good night, have fun closing up the store," and left. Yeah, that was the kind of manager I had. But I'm very glad that you had a manager who actually, gave you some champagne and played some games with you and did all that. My manager also played games with us, but it's mainly one of those, you play with this army, and I'll play with my army, and, I'll decide what's in your army, and there you go, you're defeated. Goodbye. One of those instances. So, yeah, I'm really glad you had a good one. It seems like you had the best part of working Games Workshop. Whenever I advise people to go and work for them, this is the kind of job that I mean. When you don't have rent to pay, you don't have any responsibilities, you can just go in there and have fun and make some money and get some savings together, that's the best time to go and work for Games Workshop, in my opinion. Unless you're going to make your career out of it and brown nose and get your way in there, this is the best way to work for them. In retail, anyway. My last Christmas, so says Jeff, my last Christmas, my manager had an inkling that I'd be called up to be a manager soon, so he had me shadowing him the entire time. That's so cool. Learning the new responsibilities and actually running the store from time to time on my own, whilst he spent time with his new baby daughter. When the call came that my application to be a manager had been accepted, I felt ready. More than ready, actually. Yeah, that's a cool thing. Yeah, my manager never did that either. Yeah, we knew I was going to be a manager for about, I'd say, 3 months before I actually left. Because he wanted me to stay there for, well, he would always badmouth me as a staff member, but then he insisted that I stayed there for when, the 8th edition dropped, because it was going to be manic and he needed help. And it was like, well, if I'm that bad, why do you want me here? And if I'm that bad, why am I now a manager, But anyway, yeah, so I never got trained at anything at all to be management or anything like that. I got shown how to essentially do the cash, the shit like that. I got to do like the normal stuff that every staff member has to do, but the actual nuance of being a manager, the stresses of being a manager, how to go about handling different situations in the store, nothing like that. So I'm also glad you got that too, which is really cool. It'll stand you in good stead for later on in life too. So, says Jeff, in the January, I packed up my bags and headed to another city for an extra £3,000 a year. I know, yeah. And a new job managing the Games Workshop in the next town over. So obviously your store was bigger than mine, because I got an extra 1.5k. I got half the pay rise you did, which wasn't really enough to live on, but I was so excited to do the job, I just wanted to do it. I had to move for the job, and so left my parents' place and rented a flat nearby to the store. I knew it would be a struggle living hand to mouth, but I was determined to make a career at Games Workshop and make the most of this opportunity that they had given me. Good lad. The store ran like clockwork. We had a decent number of customers heading back to the store that my trainer was happy with. We did these really awkward role plays with each other that, quite frankly, I cringe to even remember on a day that we kept the store closed just to do training. Yeah, I did that as well. Yeah, that was cringe as F. That was really cringe. There were entire days where I would do nothing but roleplay. I remember my trainer, right? He would stand outside of the store like a customer, and he would say, "You go over there and you act like a manager, okay? And I'm going to come in and you're going to try and get me to run an intro game, and I'm going to give you like different levels of difficulty on how this is going to go." Of which I would say, "Okay, fine," and he would walk in, he would just be like, and I'd have a really good conversation with this pretend customer. And I'd say, "Hey, do you fancy doing an intro game?" And in the very first time, he went, "No." I was like, "Cheers. Thanks, bro. Thanks." Just, no. I was like, okay. I thought this was going to ascend in difficulty. I didn't know I was going to be coming up against the customer from hell in the very first one. Nobody ever said no to me when I asked that question, by the way, in real life. They were like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's face them with some models." That's what they're there for. They're there to learn. They're there to find out what's going on with the hobby. So yeah, that was just a little anecdote. It was just really funny. When I finally got the keys, the job was relatively simple at the start, says Jeff. Just keep the lights on and the customers coming in. For a few months, numbers were up. We were doing campaigns in the store, ran weekly events. And when I say campaigns, I mean I would just let somebody from a local school come in and run their own little games in the store, which is fair enough. Took customers for lunch on my break. I didn't actually pay, they just came with me. Good. That would eat into your rent budget very quickly. And we developed a fantastic atmosphere that helped a lot of people into the hobby. Yeah, here's the one thing I was told not to do, was not to socialise with customers outside the store. I think that's bullshit. If you can I went for lunch with my customers every single Saturday. We would go for lunch together. Like all of the older customers, we would all, all the kids would go to McDonald's or wherever, where their parents are on their own or whatever, and we'd go to the cafe next door and sit there and have a bacon butty, do whatever, and sit down and talk shop basically, and then go back to the store. It was brilliant. It was like working with your friends. It was awesome. So, Jeff says, we developed a fantastic atmosphere that helped a lot of people into the hobby. Seeing parents being proud and happy that their kids, who were quiet in school, came to life in the store was the best part of the job for me. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm really glad you wrote this, because I'm definitely getting flashbacks to the good days. The days when you're sitting on a train, happy, tired and happy, and you just want to go home, do some painting because you're that enthused in the hobby because you just had an amazing day. Those are the best days, dude. Those are really good. A lot of parents saw awesome sides to their kids in the store that they didn't really see elsewhere. And so the place kind of became an addiction to them in a good way. Yeah, I can see that. In my initial training, weekends away with Games Workshop, usually in Nottingham, I would try to put my best foot forwards, but felt like a lot of the time I was being looked at weirdly for the answers that I gave. Oh, here we go. Like once, I was asked in the training at a hotel in Nottingham how to keep people engaged in the store, and I said that we should ask them good questions about their hobby, but not make it an interrogation. Celebrate the hobby with them and get to the bottom of what they wanted to like and why. Maybe even have them play a small game in the store with another customer so that I can see what it is about the hobby that they enjoy. The manager taking the meeting looked at me like I'd just taken a shit on the table before one of the other managers piped up. Some brown noser from down south, and said shrilly, "No games should be played in store unless they are introduction games. Change that game into an intro game and it's a decent idea." Maybe. To which the manager taking the meeting nodded sagely like he was Gandalf or something. The whole weekend kinda went like that. That was the first negative experience, but I put most of it down to me just being awkward as a first timer. That can relate if you've ever watched any of my other videos. My first real shock to the system came when I tried to advertise the store outside of the store. I would walk around on my lunch break in the local shopping centre with a few models, the single Primaris Marines we had on sprues for intro games, and would hand them out to folks along with an invitation to head down to the store and have an introduction painting session. Cool. Cool. This went really well. We had families and all sorts heading down to the point that I honestly couldn't handle them all. In our WhatsApp group with the most trusted customers, I contacted the most trustworthy of them. I could to see if they would volunteer their time when in the store to teach painting skills to the overflow. And they did. It went great guns. And my first Christmas, we really knocked it out the park in terms of money coming in. So that was my first year. It was in January that things started to fall apart. Yeah, I do remember you lasted a lot. You didn't last as long as I did. Oh, God. I was called by head office to expect a trainer the next day. Their tone was terse, and they abruptly put the phone down once they delivered their message. A little odd, but never mind. The trainer, the same one as before, turns up on my first day after the Christmas break and sits me down at the introduction table, where he reveals that I have been exhibiting worrying behaviour, quote unquote, not becoming of a Games Workshop manager. I was absolutely floored. Like, I'm sure my jaw was hanging open, catching flies. He continued that I had been spotted soliciting families to come into my store, something that was wholly inappropriate as Games Workshop do not, in capitals, advertise. They do not need to, or so he said, and that I should never approach families and minors in public. Now, I only ever approached entire families with parents there, so the insinuation being made here made my blood boil. All the effort and a record-breaking year of sales, not so much as a word of thanks or a well done from HQ, instead they hit me with this. I'm telling you right now, man. I'm telling you right now, you upset somebody at your first training session, at Nottingham that you didn't even realise you upset, because that's how fragile they are. That's how brittle they are in terms of their egos and their and the way that they go about their business. That they are extremely brittle. These are nerds. Let's not forget, these may be nerds with power in the hobby, but they're still nerds. And a lot of these nerds have never had to grow up because they've been a part of Games Workshop, and so they've been hero worshipped by other nerds. And so the cycle continues and continues and continues until the most toxic people are the ones who hang around for the most time and are the ones with the most middle management power. You upset one of those people and that's it, you're done. Your time at Games Workshop is now, it's like the countdown starts. As soon as you annoy one of those people, whether you know you did it or not, or whether any sane person would say that that's an annoyable offence or not, the countdown has started until you leave, and all your actions can do is slow down the count from now on, but it's still a countdown, and anything you do wrong, it speeds up and speeds up and speeds up in their eyes. Anything you do wrong in their eyes, they're now looking for things, they're looking for reasons to turf you out the company. I don't know what you've said, maybe it was that thing that you said, maybe it was something else, but I've seen some really innocuous shit at Games Workshop end in somebody actually leaving the company. One of the first things that I did is that I got someone's name on an email wrong. Like, what? And it was something like Gary S and Gary F. You know what I mean? So I got the second name confused or something. I did that once, and the guy was absolutely furious and just annoyed at me for the entire weekend. I had no idea. I was like, oh, really sorry about that, dude. I didn't realize it was, sorry about that, But yeah, man, I'm really sorry, but yeah. So he continues. My trainer now walks around the store after that speech, inspecting everything, and even heads over to my personal laptop and asks me to open it. I'm just going to leave that there for a second or two so you can digest what we just said there. Google probably put an ad there, but we'll see. Yeah, my trainer now walks around the store inspecting everything and heads over to my personal laptop and asks me to open it. Yeah. I tell him, absolutely not. This is my property that I bring into work to do accounting on and has personal emails from my fiancée, who is currently pregnant, and family on there. He says, and I quote, bringing such a laptop into work and refusing to show its contents can look pretty bad. At which I finally snap and open the laptop. I invite him to browse at his leisure, but I say I will be going to HQ about this flagrant breach of privacy. I say that I'm honestly insulted he even asked, and that the insinuations he has been making are beyond the pale of being professional. He just shrugs and continues browsing. Finally satisfied after about an hour, he steps away and continues going around the store. He stayed there all day, making tutting noises at my interactions with customers that they could hear, and hovering over my conversations to the point that at one stage, as I was showing a parent a Towel Start Collecting box set, I had to turn and literally say to him, I know you're doing your job, mate, but could you just back off so I can talk to Laura about her purchase, please? It got that bad, man, Jesus. Yeah, it never got to this stage with me. He would never, overtly do things. He would do things that were, soft power. Like, he would walk around and make people feel uncomfortable by standing near them and stuff like that. But he would never do anything like that. That's horrible. At the end of the day, he said that my performance had been satisfactory, quote-unquote, and that he would be back at some time in the next week to see my progress. It's like you're on probation. I went home deflated and stressed. I didn't really feel like eating dinner and went to bed early, only to then not sleep a wink. What had I done wrong? Who had I upset? He did indeed come back week after week, sucking the life out of the atmosphere so that it was like a library in my store where once we had a big celebration about the hobby each and every day. Then one week he came back with more irate feedback from headquarters. They had completely ignored my complaint about the laptop, it seems. He pronounced that no campaigns and long-term games were to be occurring in the store at all, and that I had flagrantly disobeyed this directive. Wow. Wow, man. I told him that, 1, there are no campaigns being run in my store. 2, there are only 750-point games played by players who have booked time in the store and only on certain days, i.e. Gamers Night on a Thursday. And 3, I allow 1 set of new players to play their school campaign games in the store if they book a slot. It's the only place they really have to do the hobby with proper scenery, and their school club is growing as a result. He sat back, smiling, and said, "So you admit right to my face that you do campaigns in the store then? That is your second warning." Oh my god. At this point, I looked like I was about to brain the guy. I walked over to my store computer as he spouted his nonsense about me not taking feedback very well, and printed off my yearly and monthly results in colour and brought them over to him, where the good parts are in green and the bad parts are in red. They were all green. I pointed out that the store had made more money in the last year than the previous 2 years combined. We were showing a 191% increase in turnover in the store, and only since his last visit have I had a bad few weeks. Him being there had turned people off and, quite frankly, poisoned what was once my dream job into being one I dreaded doing. It was literally there in green and red. The green stopped as soon as he started turning up. He said flatly, "So you are not accepting any responsibility and want to quit?" To my amazement, I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Yes, actually I do. I won't let you ruin this for me. I've given everything to this, and if I'm not the right guy for this, then I need to find something else to do with my life." You got balls, man. I had no idea this was how you quit. I heard you. So I was told that you just stormed out the store. I was not told anything about this. To be fair, I was told by another trainer, so this is not even, But this is there's 2 sides to every story. Do you know what I mean? And this is very, very, very similar to what I was told, but not quite the same. And you don't have a skin in the game anymore. When I'm looking for the truth and things, I always think who has skin in the game, who has the most to make by lying to me. And to be honest with you, it's the trainers who would have the most to make by lying to me, because they want to keep me around, and they want to make sure that they look good, to the managers and stuff. Because if they don't keep us happy, they're not doing the jobs. So he asked me to turn over the keys and said there would be a meeting to discuss whether I could keep my job. I literally told him, "I literally just quit. Did you not hear what I just said? Do you hear anything that I say?" He simply shrugged and told me to sleep on it. I went home, and with my fiance's help, she is an employment lawyer, laid out my grievances in my resignation letter, demanded my severance pay stated in my contract as I terminated my employment under duress, and attached 19 customer testimonies of how good a manager I was and how this guy had tanked the store with his behaviour. In reply, I received my P45, a letter accepting my resignation, and a breakdown of when I could get my severance pay. Wow. Jesus. I went on to work in IT, and I now develop software for a living from home, which is a great job, and I get to spend time with my dogs and kid all day. But this was one of the worst few months of my life, and was the crushing of a lifelong held dream. My fiancée still, years later, has not touched a model since, and she used to be an avid wargamer. That's how we met. Still, thank you for sharing your story. Hearing it as I make dinner was total catharsis, and I'm so glad you got out too. But so sad that your hobby was tainted, and your relationship with GW was as a result. A few questions though. Do you speak to them still at all, and do they watch your videos? Have a good one, Jeff. Firstly, I'm really, really, really sorry you had to go through that, my man. That sucks completely. It is not the first story of this type that I have heard, so I have no reason to doubt you. And yeah, I've spoken to others who knew you, and yeah, I know you're not the kind of guy to just come in and just throw accusations around. So I'm really sorry you had to go through that. It sucks. To answer your questions, do I still speak to them at all? Yes, I have a few people at GW who I still speak to. mainly in HR. There's one nice guy in HR that I still speak to, and he's moved over from recruitment. He used to be in recruitment, but he's moved over to HR now. He's a really nice guy. And there's a few other people at head office, that mainly in payroll, places like that I speak to. And I get messages from managers and people like that all the time who say that they like the videos and stuff. So trust me, there are good people working in Games Workshop because I speak to them. I can attest to the fact that there are tons of good people working in Games Workshop. So when I tell you that it's not all bad, I mean it. I'm coming from a place of experience. Do they still watch your videos? Yes, they do. I get messages on my Discord mainly from people at GW whenever I speak to them, saying like, hey, I love the videos. People from the store love your videos, this and that and the other. I've even had people from my old stores coming back and saying, hey, man, I remember you, or I know people who remember you, and they say you were a really nice guy. It's really nice, And yeah, I exchange emails with people from GW all the time, but I do it from my personal email account. I don't do it from the Northern Exile account, because I'm sure there are people at GW who wish this channel didn't exist. But fuck them, it's still here, and it will continue to be here for as long as I can remain doing it financially. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I love your long time. Have a absolutely wonderful weekend. You made it. You're at the end. You now can go and chill, run into the distance and have fun. And I will speak to you on Monday. Or maybe Sunday night. Not sure, but I will speak to you. Have a good one. Bye.